where's this all going? Incredible things are in the works right now. Things that are going to, if you're creative or a producer of new media content, they're going to offer these fantastic avenues to apply your skills. There are new formats that we are looking at from some of the larger companies and even from some of the mid-sized companies. Companies like VOOC. Microsoft is developing new formats that are fascinating. Some of the mobile phone properties, which are allowing for things like multi-app combos that create new and immersive experiences. You will be able to enjoy a story on a lean-back level that unfolds naturally like a movie, that suddenly and almost without warning trips into a console video game experience that then will toss you onto the internet so that you can communicate with friends and bring them into the experience, and then leave your house and seamlessly continue to enjoy that experience, almost creating a kind of alternate reality or augmented reality experience for you. And this is all being assembled right now. It's going to be crude to start with, but watch it evolve. There are some excellent resources that are out there. My advice would be to key into the Transmedia community. There's a growing community right here in New York City. There's a Transmedia meetup. You just look these things up. If on Twitter, hashtag Transmedia, if you do a search and just look every day there'll be 100 little tweets with articles, a lot of which are about independent transmedia storytelling. Our own Caitlin Burns at Starlight Runner Entertainment independently is creating a transmedia implementation she calls Jurassic Park Slope. Check it out, man. It's hilarious. It has a lot to say about gentrification and politics and things like that. And there are dinosaurs. It's great, and it's generated incredible attention. She's doing it for nothing. You know, I think the whole month's worth of implementation has cost her 10 grand. But it's a lot of fun, and it is establishing her as a transmedia producer, and it's increased her credit and so forth. There are articles on independent filmmakers in transmedia on websites like transmythology.com that are fantastic, and just explore out there. The body of information about this technique is not so large that you couldn't absorb all of it in the next couple of months. And it's shocking to me the dearth of creatives. There are some companies that have been funded that are researching ways to leverage narrative on things like tablets. But where's that Mozart? Where's that person who's going to start weaving that content together so that different applications on an iPad could create these highly immersive experiences that play with narrative in ways that haven't been done before? We haven't quite seen that yet, but they are coming. I promise you that, and that is the essence, the core of this discussion here tonight, and why all of you out there are relevant, at least to me. Now, Agent, poke a hole in my balloon.
I was going to say, I'm settled for Stevie Wonder.
No, I think, listen, you said it very well. You know, I get back to what I said probably a little bit earlier. Transmedia, traditional media, film, TV, comics, it comes down to story, right? It comes down to quality. It comes down to having a really special, unique asset. Every movie that's been made, whether it turned out to be amazing or whether it turned out to be a piece of crap, it started with someone saying, thinking to themselves, someone in a decision-making position, this is really special. This has the potential to be really fantastic. And that's what it comes down to. And I think that's why I said before, it can't just be an idea where someone's thought out all the different platforms. Like, something about it's got to be done in such an exceptional way And listen, I've seen lots of comic books that have been turned into really fantastic film and TV projects. I think one of my favorite comic adaptations ever was Road to Perdition, and it was the antithesis of a superhero movie.
There you go.
But it was really, really good. And it didn't sell a lot of units. It didn't have a huge worldwide fan base. When I sold Scott Pilgrim, which was then a little-known comic book, having sold just a few thousand copies to Universal back in 2004, it didn't have a big audience. I guess it has superhero tendencies, but it's certainly not Guy in Tights. But somebody thought there was a really unique, special story there, and in the years that have passed since then, but before the movie was released, it sort of played itself out. I mean, it became one of the most successful indie comic books of the past decade because it was just so unique, and the story and the characters were so great. So if you're comic book set in Africa or whatever it is, it all starts from the same place. I think someone just has to look at it and share your vision that it's something special, and if they do, you can be off to races.
I would not limit yourself simply because you are not versed in what it takes to create an iPad application. There's always somebody who understands how to do that and can do it inexpensively. And if you seek that person out and join forces with that person and DIY a little bit, you can come up with something. We're on that cusp right now that still allows for miraculous things to emerge out of a DIY mentality.
Publishing through Graphically, which I think is a fantastic solution for people that are looking to do sort of e-publishing and comic books. I think they're a great young company. So I think what you're asking is, as you're bringing on different people to participate in the pre-funding development of your project, a writer, etc., do you need to, is there a separate sort of contract for Transmedia, and does that get left? Basically, anytime you're having someone work on the project, if it's your project, if you desire to control it at the end of the day, you need to make sure all that work is work for hire, that you have the ability to make decisions as it relates to the disposition of the property unilaterally. You can give away as much equity in that property as you want, as long as it's totally passive and those people don't have any right to block. I would never promise people credits on future works. I would never promise people fees on future works, because the truth is you have no control over it. You can tell someone, yeah, if it gets set up as a TV series, you can be an executive producer and we'll give you X. You have no clue. That's 20th television's decision. And the last thing you want is a television studio wanting to buy your property but having to pass because they don't want to eat the credit and the fee that you promised to some guy in the Bronx who said he would help you with Transmedia. Although I heard there's great Transmedia. So yeah, I would just be very, very careful. I think that, and actually this is something, Jeff and I had a business meeting before we came here with his partner, and we went through a number of the outstanding projects and some things that were on the table. And there were a couple of things that, I don't mind saying, I poo-pooed a little bit because I sniffed some, not chain of title problems per se, but increasingly complex layers of pre-financing producers. Is that a
a railroad train load of them.
And again, listen, I'm not the expert. I'm just a guy who puts a suit on and does my best every day. But I do believe that Hollywood is a business of no more than it's a business of yes. I think that there's a lot of people who have a lot of great ideas and a lot of great projects, and as opposed to looking someone in the eye and telling you that your project isn't good enough, they look for an idea why something else is better. And knowing that that's the environment that you're working in, don't give them another reason to say no. If they like the project, don't give them the reason to say no because there's an extra layer of producers, or because chain of title's screwed up, or because you've given away certain rights. It's only going to make your life, it's an uphill battle as it is for me as much as it is for you. ABC will buy 90 scripts, to make, I don't know, I'm making up numbers, 20 pilots to pick up 4 or 5 new shows. When they're picking up those 90 scripts, they're looking for reasons to say no to hundreds of others. When they are reviewing those 90 scripts to figure out what 20 pilots they want to make, they're looking for reasons to say no to, whatever, most of them. And so don't give them reasons to say no.
There's also the notion that if you're acquiring a piece of intellectual property that it would behoove you nowadays to think about the fact that it needs to be multi-platform ready, and therefore that your rights are inclusive of all of those things, and making sure that those rights are not tied up elsewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's lots of really fantastic entertainment attorneys here and in LA who may charge you for an hour or two of their time, but getting them to put together an appropriate contract that allows you to either hire people to work on your project without damaging your standing, or acquiring or licensing or optioning properties to make sure that you're acquiring all the rights so that when you go to Warner Brothers to sell it, you have the full bundle you need. Because again, the last thing you want is somebody who you hired who did 2 months of work for you 3 years ago holding you hostage when you're trying to make a deal. And I've seen it happen all too often.
Tell me, what did you think overall of his presentation?
I thought it was great. I think he's a very entertaining speaker, and he has a lot to say on the subject. And I think he's like really illuminated things for me, and he makes it something that I want to know more about.
If I had to guess, if you gave me 100 transmedia projects, none of which were successful, however you would define success, and asked me to find what was in common amongst them all, it would probably be the thing I keep harping on, which is the lack of a really interesting, engaging, unique, powerful franchise story that was artfully told. I think that I'd be shocked if, you know, a really talented transmedia production team went to Warner Brothers and pitched a franchise, and they said, yeah, we love the movie and the TV component, and we think it could be a smash hit on a video game, but we really think you missed the beat on the comic book, so we're going to pass. I think at the end of the day, there's a kernel of an idea that is going to inspire people or not, and when it does, you know, you got lightning in a bottle, and when it doesn't, I don't think it's necessarily about tweaking process or getting a better storyboard artist next time. I think it's about, you know, just keep working until you find that idea that's going to move people.
Starlight Runner has actually, in my book, failed twice in the past decade. Now that doesn't mean that we're doing, you know, 1 million properties and failed too. We only do a few a year. The ones where we failed were when we were called in to develop Transmedia so late in the production that our insertion threatened everyone involved. Well, who are you and why are you trying to change what it is that we've established? And there were times where no matter what we did, no matter how much we said, no, but we really like your story, it's got a lot of potential, let us open it up, let us do things to create avenues for other media platforms, their response was, no, thank you. Or, yeah, go ahead and write it, but we're not going to use it. You know, that kind of, which happened.
So in that case, it's not the story that's not successful, it's the story between the individual.
That's right. That's right. It is a visionary who really only wants to play with his own toys.
Jeff's the beauty pageant contestant who only lost because he was too pretty.
One of the things that's hard for me is that it seems that a lot of it is stuff that requires a major studio backing, requires a lot of money to implement. I think I want to see more as to how maybe independent filmmakers can utilize this and how they can do it in a smaller budget. I think that's something I really want to. I think I do want to see more of that I might not have heard enough about.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
that's why I recognize you.
Oh yeah.
Picture in there. That's fantastic. Yeah. You are great. Thank you so much. I appreciate. Sometimes you retweet me.